First, live, local. This is Fox 12 Now.
And hello, everyone. Welcome to Fox 12 Now. I'm Greg Nibbler. As always, thank you for joining us. We are live streaming on our website, on our apps, and of course on social media as well. So you can join in any of those places and watch this and all of our other episodes and segments and interviews as well. Right now, though, we are going to talk about the Willamette Heritage Center and a new interactive program that they have to help teach kids about the railroads. That's a whole lot I just threw at you. We're going to go through all that and explain it right now because we have Kylie Pine, who is joining us, who is the curator and collections manager for Willamette Heritage Center. And Kylie, thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks for the opportunity to be here.
I love talking about history and museums and organizations, but also combining some technology and some interactiveness into things. I think that's also a really great opportunity to talk about all of that. And to start off, though, maybe just for everybody who may not know, can you tell us about the Willamette Heritage Center and everything you do there?
Sure. So the Willamette Heritage Center is a 5-acre museum down in Salem, Oregon. We're right downtown, next to the Capitol and the railroad depot. Our mission is to preserve and interpret the history of Mid-Willamette Valley. And doing that, we have a 5-acre site with 14 historic structures that tell the story of time immemorial and the Kalapuya people that lived here for thousands of years, up through the woolen mill that used to be on our site as well. And we're very excited that we're expanding the story to talk a little bit about the rail heritage that was so integral to our space and our site as well.
Absolutely, yeah, and I think that's great that it does incorporate so much of the history of that part of the Willamette Valley. I mean, there's so many different things that took place during there and so many stories to be told. So looking at it, I guess, to talk about the railroad side, can you give us a little bit of that history and the importance of that?
Sure. So our site, museum site, abuts the main line of the railroad that went through the Mid-Willamette Valley since the 1870s. There's been trains going north and south on there, and there still continues today to be sometimes up to 30 trains that run through off the side of our site. For a very long time, the area that is now the museum's parking lot was actually really a critical portion of the Southern Pacific's line maintenance in our area. So they had what are called section houses, which are workers' places, places for workers to live, and each of the gangs that were created to, and that's actually the railroad terminology, gangs that were used to maintain the tracks throughout the rail systems that they have. So the gang that lived in our area lived right inside the houses that were on what's now our parking lot. They've since been torn down, but there were several families that lived there and then had railroad maintenance sheds as well in that space. So we're excited to talk a little bit more about that history.
Yeah. I mean, that's got to be pretty incredible too. Just I would imagine even things that you found just as you're going through that and being there on that site. That's got to be kind of a unique feeling to be working right there where that was taking place.
Yeah, we're really excited. We think history comes alive when you're actually in the space that people lived and worked and did the things that we're talking about. So being able to have that touchstone is pretty exciting.
And that's part of what this interactive program is as well, you know, and I think just to start off, can you tell us about the interactive program and what this is that you're trying to accomplish with this?
Sure. So this is a first step in a new program that we're hoping to develop multiple storylines to be able to look at the complex history around our site through the eyes of somebody that was there, and in this case, and through the eyes of a pet of a family that was living in those section houses. We had the opportunity to do some oral history with the Martinez family who lived in the section houses and grew up in the section houses. They told us about their dog named Penny. And so Penny is going to be the guide for families to be able to explore this history a little bit more fully. We have a backpack that families can check out at the front desk of the museum and go through a variety of special activities that are only accessible through this backpack and through this program. So you'll get to hear Penny's story firsthand. There are audio players that you can put a card in, and the dog will actually talk to you and tell the story. And then we have a lot of different activities, from a science experiment through some games, being able to use some actual railroad equipment to play some games and try out different opportunities there. Yeah, so you can see in the image now, there's the audio player and an opportunity to see Penny in the backpack going through.
That's great. I mean, that's such a good idea to incorporate something like that. I mean, you know, having the pet aspect to it. Whose idea was that originally?
We've been thinking about it for a really long time. There are so many different animal stories on our site that have been coming to light. In the woolen mill that we interpret that operated for such a long time, there was a mill worker that had actually trained mice to come to the noon whistle and eat lunch with him. So we're like, oh, we could tell the story through that. And obviously, in a woolen mill, sheep are a huge part of what was happening there and the growing of there. And one of our favorite activities on site too is we have a family of ducks that live in the waterways that was so essential to the industry down throughout the city and throughout the region, providing power for many, many years. So we're excited to kind of look at these stories through a different perspective and maybe find a different way to engage in history in a fun way.
Yeah, yeah, I love that aspect. And I know this is also in a partnership too with the Siletz Tribal Fund. Can you tell us about that partnership?
Yeah, so we were really, really fortunate to receive a grant from the Siletz Tribal Charitable Contribution Fund to help pilot this backpack project and our pilot program and our pilot initiative to see how this works. It's the first time we've done it, so we're excited to see how things are going and how things work out and how families can interact, and hopefully we can just build it up better and add more stories as we try all this out.
How important do you think it is, just as somebody who works there and has worked in this field, how important do you think it is to incorporate technology or different ways to engage students going forward when it comes to historical things?
Sure. So I think that a lot of museums tend to be very word focused and exhibit focused. So you're very visually stimulated, and that's really great. I'm not a person that learns that way myself. So it's important for me to be able to have hands-on things, be able to touch and be in those spaces and be moving. And we're hopeful that these will provide a different vantage point and a different way to kind of explore and interact, but also focus the story a little bit too. With thousands of years of history we're talking about on site, it's important for us to kind of find maybe a focused pathway so that you could go through and experience this one story and then hopefully come back and experience other stories in the future as well. And
yeah. Yeah, you mentioned that, as far as expanding, that this could be the first one. Do you have ideas already in place for what the expansions could be?
Yeah, definitely. We're looking forward to telling the story about the mice that worked alongside the mill workers in the mill and talking about different machines and how they work through their perspective. I'm excited to talk about water power through the perspective of ducks that have been living in the mill race for a really long time, and the sheep story as well, and talking about how sheep's wool was turned into fiber for a long time. So yeah, I'm very excited to. Yes. Yes. Really excited.
Excited. For you, what do you think is the most important thing for children to take away when they come and visit the Willamette Heritage Center?
I think the most exciting thing is how much history is different from the experiences that they have, and yet similar and the same. And being able to see how things have changed over time and how their own personal lives are affected even today by what happened in the past. And especially with the railroad, we love being able to talk about why that train going by when they're on site is important to their daily lives as well, and has been important for a long time. So I think it's exciting to make a connection between how history affects our own experiences today.
And have you had people who have worked on the railroads stop by and visit and just interact just to see part of that history?
We actually have a really amazing crew. Part of what inspired the research into the history of the railroad on our site was the acquisition of a wooden caboose that came a few years ago. And we've worked with a number of volunteers, many of whom have railroad experience themselves, in restoring that and pulling it up to a new exhibit. And it's been amazing to hear their stories and their experiences, or the experiences that they have from their family and their parents. So
that's really cool. Yeah, to get to actually hear some of that firsthand accounts, and then also see that expansion on what you're doing. I guess one of my last questions here too is just how does Willamette Heritage Center normally acquire its funding, and what can people do to help you out?
Very kind, great story, question. So the Willamette Heritage Center is not owned or operated by any government agency or other institution. We're a nonprofit. So we raise money to be able to to operate and continue to function and look for granting and other things. So, yeah, the easiest way would be come visit, come take a tour that supports the work that we're doing here. Donations are always appreciated in other ways too, but yeah, that's probably the easiest way to get involved. And you can learn more at our website, www.willametteheritage.org.
Nice. Anything else you think people should know?
I'm really excited.
I think your enthusiasm says it all right there. Yeah, fantastic. Well, Kylie, thank you very much for joining me. Really, really appreciate you talking about it and what you're doing there, and love to see that it's expanding and bringing these new opportunities for everybody to learn more, and especially the kids. I mean, I kind of want to do it too, but for the children as well.
We do not check IDs. You can come in and check it out too if you want to go by yourself.
All right. Well, Kylie, thank you very much for joining me today.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks for the opportunity.
All right. Have a good one. Okay, so again, this is part of what we get to do here with Fox 12 Now. We cover so many different topics, but learning about that and learning about Willamette Heritage Center, so really appreciate them joining us and being on here. We're going to continue talking actually about, well, I mean, we're going from a museum to talk about tourism actually coming up at 1:30 p.m. We've got the CEO of Travel Oregon, Todd Davidson, who's going to be joining me to talk about a survey that they want you who are watching, everybody, to fill out and provide feedback to them. So we're going to talk about what they're looking for, what kind of feedback they want, and also some prizes they're offering on top of that for filling out the survey. So we're going to be discussing that at 1:30 p.m. That'll be on Facebook and YouTube, and of course our apps or website. If you're on Facebook and YouTube, you're going to see this video end. You can watch some of our previous segments, but I'll be over on the apps and the website with a little bit more over there in the meantime between now and 1:30. So somewhere else that you can join us. Good time to download that Fox 12 Oregon app and take advantage of everything that's on there. There's a lot of content on there, lots of updates, lots of things to follow along. So grab that. But in the meantime, I'm going to log off right now. I'm Greg Nibbler. This is Fox 12 Now.